Mr. Deepak Parekh, Chairman of Housing Development Finance Corporation. Not only is his career in the world of finance exemplary, but his contribution as a business leader in the corporate world is impeccable too. He was awarded with Businessman of the Year in 1996 and GRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award in the same year. He is the youngest recipient of the prestigious Lifetime Corporate Award by Economic Times. With regards to his immense contribution, he was conferred Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan by the Government of India. Mr. Parekh also received Knight in the Order of the Legion of Honor by French Republic. He has a penchant for doing things right, which is why Parekh is the go-to man for policymakers and the government. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Deepak Parekh to share his word of wisdom.
Mr. Shiv Singh Mehta, Chairman IMA, Mr. Vijay Goel, President IMA, Mr. N. Mohan, Conclave Chairman, Santosh Muchal, Vice President IMA, Rohit Gadia, CEO, Capital Via, distinguished guests, my friend Mr. Ramesh Maselkar, ladies, gentlemen, and dear students. It's an honor to receive this, and on all humility, I have to say thank you. I was embarrassed. We are running late this morning, so I requested them not to read the citation, make the ceremony short, but they wouldn't listen to me. Anyway, I would like to thank the Indore Management Association for inviting me here today and honoring me with the Lifetime Achievement Award 2016. I have to admit that Lifetime Achievement Awards have always perplexed me. When I was considerably younger and conferred with a Lifetime Achievement Award, I was absolutely convinced that I was getting a message that time is up, I've got this award, go home and sit down now, your time is over. And I was also, and this award needed to be given to much older, wiser and experienced people. Now several years later, I'm once again convinced that in an era of e-commerce, in an era of cutting-edge innovation, and in an era of unicorn clubs, I find myself way too old school, conservative, and truly believe that there are many more dynamic entrepreneurs worthy of such accolades. Nevertheless, it's my pleasure to be here today, and it is a great sense of humility that I thank the IMA for bestowing this honor. I was also very impressed with the city. I was told yesterday that I visited Indore 12 years ago. I have been to Indore many times, and the memory I have about Indore has changed. I liked Indore. I spent half a day yesterday, and I was very impressed, and I'm delighted that Indore has been chosen as one of the 20 smart cities. I must say that my first experience coming to Indore was not very pleasant. I was in the Infrastructure Leasing and Finance Corporation when the first toll bridge, private toll bridge was opened, Rao Pithampur Toll Road. And the problems we had of collecting toll from businessmen and traders was a nightmare. When the toll opened, we opened it with much fanfare, and from the next day, there were rasta rokos, cars blocked, they beat up the toll collectors, and there was total reluctance to pay toll. I'm talking of 15, 20 years ago now. And we had to use political influence from Delhi. Mr. Advani had to call the chief minister, and after a few weeks, it restored. But that was the first toll road which was in Indore. What particularly excited me about this program is the 25th anniversary of the International Management Conclave. This is a good platform where brings students together with professionals. facilitate exchange of ideas, thoughts, new ideas, and you have an impressive galaxy of people addressing this conclave not only yesterday and today, but even in the prior years. So keeping in mind the theme of today, which is reinventing growth, I thought it's best to share with you my perspective of India against the backdrop of the global economy, the current global economy, and then perhaps talk about the promising growth areas in the Indian economy. I think today little needs to be said about the global economy. It is in acute turmoil. Markets tend to be irrational and totally volatile, ranging from over-exuberance to utter pessimism. One cannot ignore the fact that markets reflect the level of confidence in a country, in an economy. And 2016 has not begun very well, not very encouraging. We all expected a global slowdown, and it was imminent for some time that 16 will be a bad year because the emerging economy have slowed down, and the emerged economy, the developed economy, the growth is not yet coming as expected. But the kind of sell-off in public markets we've seen in the first month of this year, global market capitalization has lost $6.5 trillion in 1 month. Market cap has come down by $6.5 trillion. This has been unprecedented, and India is also part of that. As you've seen, our markets come down from January 1 to the end of the month. So volatility is here to stay. The sudden loss of confidence is very odd because nothing has changed globally, but suddenly the level of confidence worldwide has come down. And when markets, the current market rout, emerging markets take the brunt, bore the brunt, particularly equity, debt, as well as currencies. So as we are moving into the bear phase, there will be increasingly questions asked. Are we getting into the 2008 syndrome? Are we getting into the Lehman Brothers crisis? Is this a result of a prolonged monetary policy which was very easy, loose monetary policy? Is this because of emerging economies have large leveraged balance sheets of many industries? Is it because there's an acute price bubble? How will the fiscal finances impact? How will it impact fiscal finances of commodity exporting companies? And will this ultimately lead to loss of jobs? So again, this backdrop, let us see where we stand in India. Two factors are important. We have strong macroeconomic fundamentals today, but that does not insulate us from the massive sell-off the tag emerging markets have got. Emerging markets are still looked upon as one class of assets. Every emerging economy is put into one box, whether it's Brazil, Russia, South Africa, India, Malaysia, all the emerging economies. So all assets are homogeneous, asset class is one. So when there's a sell-off, investors do not insulate, separate, which is a good emerging economy, which is a bad emerging. It's a total herd instinct, and all emerging markets get impacted. India, I have not seen in my life such strong macro fundamentals as we have today. We have interest rates have come down. Inflation wholesale price index is negative. CPI is 3, 4, 5%. It's lower. Current account deficit is almost wiped out. It's around 1% of GDP. Fiscal deficit is very comfortable. And we have reserves of $350 billion. Now this $350 billion is 11 months imports. 11 months imports. In 91, when we had the financial crisis, we had 11 days imports. So from 11 days to 11 months, we have really strengthened over the years. Then the low commodity prices have also come to our rescue. In 1 year, if the oil prices remain where they are, India will save $50 billion in import, 50 billion. If this 50 billion is put into infrastructure, it can change the face of the country. It is already budgeted in our expenses. We need to redirect the savings into infrastructure. Now, government has no doubt taken a number of positive measures in the last 20 months. I would say that on the large-scale corruption at the higher level has been eradicated. I'm convinced it is eradicated. And I'll give you the examples. I'll give you a number of examples. E-auction, e-tendering is the norm of the way. We heard Piyush talk about coal auctions. 100 coal mines have been auctioned on e-auction basis. 100 coal mines. Spectrum has been auctioned on e-auction basis. Imported LNG has been auctioned on e-tendering basis. Even Suresh Prabhu, the dynamic Suresh Prabhu, has given orders for new locomotives of $8 billion by quoting one number. The company that bid the lowest price got the contract immediately. So we have totally moved away from giving envelopes to your friendly ministers. People used to give 3 envelopes and use the one that was most suitable. Now it is totally transparent. Everyone else knows what the other competitor is bidding. It is open, transparent process. So you know what your competitor is willing to pay for that asset. And I think we must give Prime Minister full credit for implementing this e-auction. It is like if you attend an art auction, it is exactly like an art auction. That is what's happened. And the government is trying its best to convince the state governments, at least the BJP-run state governments, that they should implement a similar system at the state level. The other thing that has happened is financial inclusion efforts have also been successful, extremely successful. 200 million Jan Dhan accounts have been opened. All the bankers were put a gun on our head and said, you have to open accounts with no charges, no minimum balances. Go out of your way and open bank accounts. And 950 million Aadhaar cards are there and 1 billion mobile phones are there. So the purpose of these Jan Dhan accounts is to transfer the subsidy from the central government directly to the bank accounts. It's the direct benefit transfer. In the past, subsidies got withered away before it went to the intended beneficiaries. No one got the subsidy that they deserved, that was rightfully theirs. And this has really changed now. You see, we have also given RuPay cards, a credit card to a poor person. It's called RUPAY, RuPay cards. RuPay cards allows banks to lend money to a poor farmer in anticipation of the subsidy which he's going to get in the bank. So it's like an escrow mechanism. You lend him money earlier, and when the subsidy comes, he pays you automatically. This will help a lot. This is a huge success. And we thought that there'll be negative balances, there'll be zero balances in these 200 million new bank accounts. Today, 65% have balances. And the deposits in these 200 million accounts are in thousands of crores. And we see gradually more and more money being put in banks by the poor people. So I think this, what they call the JAM trinity, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, Mobile, this has worked wonderfully. New bank licenses have given for small banks, for payment banks. Subsidies have been reduced. Today we are buying diesel and petrol at market rates. And LPG is being targeted to intended beneficiaries through the direct money transfer. FDI has opened up in a number of sectors like insurance, defense, construction, railways, medical equipment. And competitive federalism has happened. I have seen that the states are getting a larger share of resources. In the Finance Commission also, the Finance Commission recommended 10% additional revenue to go to the states from 37 to 47%. The coal mines and the auction of all minerals, the government has said 100% of the revenue will go to the state where the mines are. So states have got allocation of more resources. And again, I personally feel it's a result of Prime Minister knowing, having run a state for 12, 13 years, he knew the difficulty of states raising money. The growth is going to be in the state. The development is going to be in the state, not in the center. So they need more resources. And the government is ensuring that states get more resources to spend on projects. So basically, India is not an export-driven economy, it's a domestic consumption-driven economy. We have a young population, we have rising middle class with rising aspirations, and we have rapid urbanization. There is a momentous rise in the startup, eco-startups also in India. And I'd like you to know, the youngsters who are sitting, India is the youngest startup nation in the world. Youngest startup nation in the world. 72% of the startup are by students, children, boys and girls who are under 35 years old. India has seen over 4,200 startups, making it the third largest startup base in the world after US and UK. The government has played its part by allocating $1.5 billion to startup and giving them some tax concession and no regulatory hassles for the startup. E-commerce industry size is growing very rapidly. It's estimated to grow from 23 to 38 billion. One could not have imagined 5 years ago that e-commerce business is going to be 38 billion. Now, I was telling someone in the morning that I'd recently gone to our Bangalore office, and 70% of our people in our Bangalore office buy everything on the net. And their argument is, it's simple, it's easy, no traffic jam because Bangalore is full of traffic, no parking problem, and if you don't like the merchandise or the goods, they are willing to take it back and credit your account. So more and more Pune, I also talked to the Pune office and they say 60% of Pune people do net purchases. So this e-commerce is going to change the way we do business and trade. And increasing internet and mobile penetration is driving growth. Call tariffs, as you know, our telephone tariffs are the lowest in the world, lowest in the world. That is how this is taken up, this has grown. There are 400 million internet users today. Every day there is increasing. So we are the third largest nation using internet, besides US and China. Apart from this, e-commerce, internet penetration will also help to deliver education services, health services, e-governance, financial services. So there's a big benefit. Now, keeping in mind the theme of the conference, which is reinventing growth, I think we are fortunate that we are one of the few countries that are having good growth today. India is today the fastest growing large nation in the world. GDP estimates are about 7.5%. Many investors abroad and India recognize that the true potential of India is still yet to come. Even in the BRIC nations, I is only one that stands out today. In the BRIC countries, I is the last standing BRIC. So this is the time to capitalize on investment. This is the time to capitalize on spending in infrastructure, spending in construction, as well as boost allocations to health and education. When we talk about getting on a higher plane of growth, there are various factors that one needs to consider. These should not be viewed as negative, but these issues, if they are fixed, India's growth potential can significantly scale upwards. First item is monsoon. Now, no one has control over the monsoons. But last 2 years, we've had deficits in monsoon. We had 14% deficit and 7% deficit the last 2 years. So food grain production stagnated. Although agriculture only constitutes 15% of GDP, 50% of the population is dependent on agricultural income. Half of India is dependent on agricultural income. Although on the GDP format, services are 65% and only 15% is agriculture. So we are still dependent on the rain gods. We do not have adequate irrigation facilities. And two things happen when we have poor monsoons. One is food inflation kicks in, which again is a vicious circle. Inflation goes high, rates go high, interest rates don't come down. And second, there's subdued rural demand. Just to give you an example in 2015, one example, auto growth in 2015, car sales were over 10% in the calendar year 2000. Tractor sale was minus 15%. because the income is not there in the rural people. Tractor sales last 2 years are down. Earlier, tractor sales used to grow at 20-30% when we had good rainfall and the food grain production was high. The good thing is that historians have told us that in a 100-year span, India has never had 3 consecutive years of bad monsoon. So we are all hoping and praying that this is the 3rd year, so we will have good monsoons. Implementing legislation is a big issue. There are various bills, you all are aware, which are pending to be passed in Parliament, which will do good to the economy, good to the country. Bankruptcy code, real estate bill, GST, land acquisition, labor laws, and many, many more. Parliament, unfortunately, is in a continuous logjam due to an opposition that opposes for the sake of opposing. Many of these bills were introduced by the Congress party, but they are opposed and Parliament session gets logjammed and the government is unable to pass any legislation. This system must be fixed if you want to get faster results. Taxation policies. Again, we were famous, we only have grey policies, there's nothing black or white. However, the finance minister has repeatedly reassured everyone that the tax department will not be adversarial and they will be more open and transparent. The number of cases that are going on in courts and taxation are huge. There are uncertainties on issue of transfer pricing, place of effective management, retrospective applicability, lack of advance rulings, and a number of issues like that. Ease of doing business. Although we have improved, Prime Minister's vision is we should be number 50 out of 189 countries. We should be 50 in the ease. We were 142 on ease of doing business. We have come down in 1 year, but we still have a long way to go. And I think if the government ease of the single window clearances and quicker sanctions, approvals, streamlining bureaucracy, if all this is done, our numbers, ranking in the World Bank rating will improve. Now, private sector is not spending money today. Capital expenditure is just not happening in the private sector. So government has stepped up and started investing more in roads and railways and power. Government spend has increased by 30% this year, much more than the previous year. The private sector's concern is that our factories are not working in full capacity. Utilization of installed capacity is 60-70%. Why should we put more capital when we are unable to sell all our produce? Why should we invest more when we can construct more, manufacture more and can't sell? So I think this is a cycle. It will come back. We need a little patience. We need good policies, and 2 or 3 quarters you will see private sector spending again. The other thing which I mentioned is risk of emerging markets. We will have volatile capital outflows. We have seen in January, we've had over $2 billion go out. So rupee will be under pressure if more money goes out. And this is part of, because we have huge investments by foreign portfolio investors. The outlook has changed. In 2014, we got 42 billion in the stock market, 42 billion. In 2015, we got 12.5 billion. In 1 month of 2016, we've lost 2 billion. So we don't know how the year goes on, but the risk of volatility in our capital markets and the foreign currency is there definitely. China's slowdown is also a concern for us because China is India's largest trading partner. And if you see that if the Chinese currency, the yuan, comes down further, exports from China become cheaper. And this is going to impact our exports. Our exports have dropped month on month for the last 12 months. We have initiated anti-dumping duties and anti-dumping measures in steel and aluminum, but it is hurting the local manufacturers. Commodity price shocks. While we have benefited from low commodity prices, we must not get complacent because price shocks hits both ways. If commodity prices don't go up, all the oil exporting countries are in trouble. So they will do less capital. They will hire less people. They're always, I was in Dubai 2 days ago, and the people in Dubai are concerned that they will lose jobs because production, new spend is not happening, new construction is not happening. The oil revenues of Saudi, Abu Dhabi and all have come down significantly. So it is going to impact India in another way. Remittances may come down, new people won't get jobs, existing Indians there will lose jobs. So this is a big thing if the commodity prices remain where they are, particularly oil. Job creation is a big issue in India. We need to create 1 million jobs per month. We are a young country, ancient country with a young population. 60% of our population is all sitting at the back. And unless we make efforts to increase jobs, unemployment will become a big issue in India. Then we always have the geopolitical risks. India remains susceptible to geopolitical risks. Rising tensions, particularly with its neighboring countries, is a big issue. But today we are described as a good house in a bad neighborhood. Many people describe India as a good house in a bad neighborhood. Neighborhood is bad, but we have a decent house, we are a good house. So how do we become a $10 trillion economy? When we got our independence, after we got our independence, it took us 60 years, 60, to become a $1 trillion economy. We became a $1 trillion economy in 2007. We became a $2 trillion economy in 2015. So the next trillion we added in 8 years. The next 2 trillion we are going to add in 7 years. So if we continue at 7.5%, 8%, 9% growth, we will become a $10 trillion and we'll become one of the largest economies. We need to work together, we need to have policies, we need to have rationalization of policies. We must let the people of India and the businessmen go open, because there is huge amount of innovation possible, there's huge amount of enterprise in India, and we need less controls. We need companies, iconic companies, to power India's growth, like the Apple, the Google, Amazon. We need to reform the public sector. I think public sector needs to be reformed. There are numerous loss-making public sector companies, and they continue to drain the exchequer. There is reluctance to divest, and we have not met our divestment target this year. So we need to have large-scale strategic divestments, which will make companies more efficient, bring in resources, and government can spend those money on the social sectors. Financial penetration, we have to deepen the financial penetration. You won't believe today, mortgages are only 9% of India's GDP. China, it is 20, Thailand, it is 22, Malaysia, it is 40. All other countries are in US and all, it's 60 and 70. So mortgages as a percentage is 9%. 38 years ago when we started HDFC, mortgages as a percentage was 2%. In 38 years from 2 to 9, we cannot afford to wait 38 years to increase 7 more. We need to do that on a much faster basis. Insurance penetration, life insurance penetration is 4%. You get tax benefits, it's a protection to the family, and it's a saving product. But yet, insurance penetration in India is only 4%. Non-life insurance is 1%. Mutual fund is below 1%. So there is going to be more deepening in the financial sector. We need more penetration. We need younger people to put some savings in some of these products. We have to create world-class infrastructure. We have created world-class airports. We've got a telecom subscriber base which we are proud of, which is the second largest in the world. Why can't we reform our infrastructure? We need to reform if we've done it in telecom, if we've done it in airports, we've done it in, why can't we do it in a city infrastructure? What has not been done, urban infrastructure has got worse. You see, you must have read reports in Bombay, the pollution in Bombay is worse than Delhi now because of some garbage dump in near Chembur, which is creating pollution. So we have to see that urban infrastructure gets, now 20 smart cities, we will improve urban infrastructure, but we have a long way. ports, about power and roads, railways needs modernization. We are absolutely on the right track with what Piyush talked, with what Mr. Prabhu is doing, with what Nitin Gadkari is doing in roads, giving more contracts. But city rejuvenation, urban infrastructure, city infrastructure needs to upgrade. 80% of our GDP comes from cities. 80% comes from cities. So we need to have stronger cities, better cities, well-run cities. Otherwise, your GDP will not go high. We need reforms. We need reforms that do not require legislation. Parliament can continue non-functioning. But we need reforms, judicial reforms, which doesn't need parliament, doesn't need law. We need police reforms. We need judicial electoral reforms. So we need bureaucratic reforms where we must be able to assure a bureaucrat that if he takes a decision, the 3 C's won't go after him. Because today there is reluctance to take decision because bureaucrats are worried, and rightly so, about the CVC, the CBI and the CAG. And I know a number of my friends in bureaucracy who have retired 5 years ago who've been hauled up. Why did you take a decision like this? In business, we take decisions every minute. All of it are not right. Some may go wrong. But you have to face up. You must live to it. But bureaucracy is that they're scared of taking decisions. Even people in life insurance corporation, if you see, they will buy an IPO all out because no one can criticize them. But they're scared to buy scripts or scared to sell scripts in the market that if the price goes up after they sell, they'll be hauled up, that you knew something. So we need to protect our bureaucrats. We need to pass some legislation or something that bureaucracy can take a fair decision, quicker decision. But unless that happens, this logjam will continue. I'm convinced that we have not seen the better days of India. The better days of India are yet to come. And I entirely agree with my Mumbai friend Piyush, whom I've known for over 20, 30 years, that India will see better days ahead. And the better days will be as a result of the youth of India. We all have huge amount of confidence in India's youth. And India is a young country, and the youth will deliver. And the youth will deliver the results that we have not been able to deliver to you. So thank you once again for giving me this honor and honor of the award, and thank you for inviting me.